I had thought in head. Um, so, first off, I think I have a theory about what's going on with that whole sub drop. I talked about. Forget if I made a. I think I made a community post. I may have mentioned it in one of my drive streams, but anyway, in the last couple weeks, so when I had my interview with Thomas Sheridan on the channel, I jumped up to nearly 700 subs. I don't even know if I peaked it before I lost it because I'm back down to pretty much the numbers. Actually, it might even be slightly worse than I had when I was talking to Thomas. Right? So I kind of lost everything I had gained. Now, an easy reason for this can be that over time they took a second look at me and they didn't like me at all. Right? Which I get that a lot. Sometimes I feel like the only people in Thomas's circles that like me is guys that are initiate in temple or are also good friends with guys that kind of understand an initiate temple thing or two or whatever. Because everybody in the community knows Sethicus for having done 3 or 4 diatribes with him of the highest and most relevant of occult material. And I was introducing myself to Thomas to open up my own lines of discussion. I hope in the future, if he'll come back, which I think he will. It's also been very hard to make personal correspondence with him because I don't spend enough time on Substack where I think I can direct message him because he doesn't have his account set up on Telegram for direct messaging, which I can imagine why. Some people don't want to have that kind of relationship on social media. Telegram can be extremely schizophrenic, right? If you don't know how to, set up all of your protocols for traffic, you will, your phone will give you a neurological breakdown with all the notifications you have to fucking bypass, and you don't know what's important that you've missed or whatever. So, so yeah, I think I have to go over to his Substack, or I just have to fucking email him. But that's not for a while. I have to meditate on him and be a thing. So anyway, so there's that. The other thing that I think it may be is that this, for all I know, because I didn't check till, I don't know when I checked now that I think about it. Did I check before or after I had heard? So YouTube changed its policies about monetization of AI only content. Like if your channel is just an AI production, you don't get to monetize. I believe that's the new policy. So I have a suspicion that perhaps a bunch of bot accounts that were subbed to me that were intending to got deleted, which may also be from the same pool as Sheridan. Because Sheridan is exposed to more normies in Ireland, right? He's an extremely important figure in the movement of the social paradigm in Ireland. For those that are on the push against the various diseases of the mind being infected upon us. So yeah, those are my bits on that. I went to the Renaissance Fair, and it's one of the only times I typically come across someone that I've thought to ask who would actually take my money to braid my beard. And a lot of these fucking hairstylist people, they act like they're not allowed to. But I think the real problem is that they're embarrassed because they don't know how to. Because when I was there at the fair, I was telling the lady about how, you know, I can't find a goddamn hairstylist that's willing to touch. Like, I went to a bunch of places, and you know, she said something that was, you know, that would probably be the right answer, which is kind of funny, especially with how they like to try and troll the guy who, like, look, just because I like the aesthetic that modern Norseman pseudo Viking like thing, like, whatever, it's a cool modernized look that expresses your paganism, but embrace it as a modern, right? But it's this idea that, you know, just like, you know, the Vikings didn't do cornrows, right? We worship weaving goddesses. Our goddesses of fate make tapestries. Braiding hair is a thing. Sif losing her hair. Like, you know, if her hair is a big deal, it's probably because it had value, meaning there was something you did with it that was good, right? Like, so braiding it would be part of it, because braiding is a part of the core of our magic. A white person couldn't have thought of cornrows on his own a bazillion years ago. Besides, it's a lose-lose argument, because if you're an evolutionist, white man came from Africa, and thus, you know, we're all originally Africans, literally, because we all would have been, you know, black people back in the day until a bunch of us moved north, right? So therefore, we would have been carrying the braiding of nappy hair down and then changing it as our hair changed through the evolutionary process. So you lose on the argument, right fucking there. Just because you don't have evidence of it, it ought to be a rational thought in understanding human cognition and basic ideas of how traits and skills are passed down and such. It's an absurdist fucking argument. Maybe the problem is that we saw a white tribe with cornrows and we said, oh, those guys worship dirty gods that cornroll their hair. Let's slaughter them all, right? And that's why you can't find it, because they made especially sure they destroyed the hair so you wouldn't find their hair, because they knew that hair would grow or whatever. Like, you find plenty of like hair on mummies and shit. Like, they want to make sure there's nothing to preserve of their hair, because they want to erase them from existence, so therefore nobody got any ideas. Okay, that could have been the reason why you can't find evidence of it, because it happened a long ass time ago, when we decided, like, I'm not so fond of those guys that came from over there. They're a little cringe, if you ask me, and they're cringing my children, and nobody cringes my children but me. Yeah. So it's like that. So anyway, yeah, that's my theories on why my sub count took a little nosedive, right? Because like, I got a bunch of subs after the interview with Thomas, naturally, right? But also I didn't see a whole lot of like retention. Like, nobody was just like, hey, I just found you after the Thomas interview. Oh, this is really interesting about the Jewish war. I didn't get nothing like that. I didn't start getting any reciprocal feedback at all. And I understand why. I understand why, because I know the many different voices that Thomas appeals to, and some of them don't appeal to me. And therefore, I don't appeal to them, and it's all right. I took a hard stance with one guy who, you can see the post. I fucking took the screenshot. I just like, no. Let's not be fucking passive aggressive. What do you mean I sound like I'm waffling, right? Because like there's like a little bit of the new ageism, cringe that they think they're picking up on, and stuff like that, right? That's just, there's an eccentric manner, in an eclectic manner in which I am drawn to with my camaraderie within the temple. About a lot of ideas, because we're the occultists that really worked on ourselves while looking at all this crazy shit that you've heard of that the New Agers were playing with. And we're trying to keep that from being fucking erroneously destroyed in its value, because somebody couldn't sift through the paltered information to straighten it out, which is why I backed off of speaking of the Bach saga. When I realized Thomas hadn't heard of it, and that something sounded a bit Abrahamic about it, right? And because I am not going to gospelize the Bach saga, which a couple of my friends get the impression of because of my level of reference point. And it's just like, when I can see more and more validations that correspond with prior contextual validations into multiple triangulation points, reinforcing the true strength of the validity of what is said. These are all the important things that, once the self-reinforcing system of the root language clarifies the truth, when we open up Lemminkainen Temple, whenever our human race and those of authority who want to do so in full honor and exposure for the world, and see that the gold aesthetics, these things are all there, and it would promise to show us effectively something so universally proto-cultural that it could possibly bring the whole world together. When you see, like, here's like one cavity of the temple, one room, and perhaps that room was from the 10th family's treasures, right? You know, there were the 10 tropical families before the ice time. So you would logically have 10 rooms in there, one for each family, and you would get all this shit that would be you would get like what you would not see in there. You would not see anything directly Norse, Germanic, or Slavic, because those three races were born of the ice time, right? So from the other 10, there you would have it, right? And you would see you'd see something African, something Mayan, something Native American, right? Like, I've been posting this all over the place. A system with AI has discovered 303 new Nazca lines in Peru. 303, and they're just as wild as the other ones. And they showed 9 in particular in the article. Those are the 9 that are going around, and they look wild. They look fucking cool. I'm very inspired. I double checked. Like, the article is being validated in a couple places and in a couple of languages. So there's lots of international news about it that I don't think they fake, meaning that if it's fake, it's being faked on the official level. Okay, just understand that. There's always people making fakes, and then there's the official level and whether that's fake or authentic, and that's very hard to do because that's the first veil and all the dark sorcery. Anyway, I'm going to get ready for work. Peace out.